first, it's a great pleasure to be with you and to communicate with uh, Kurds in Kurdistan of Iraq and around the world. Uh, I think this is a very important event. It demonstrates that the U.S. Uh, values its relationship with Kurdistan significantly. Of course, the plan for the Consul General building uh, was initiated several years ago. And those who initiated that were wise because the importance of Kurdistan has grown since then. We have not only the United States, not only security interests, economic interests. On security, we have counterterrorism interests. And on the economy, there are investments that have been made. And therefore, this platform, a large consul general, indicates that the U.S. wants to have a significant relationship with Kurdistan and regards Kurdistan as important. Yes, if you look at the recent history of relations with the United States and U.S. Presence and U.S. engagement with the region, not only the Kurdistan region, but Iraq and the Middle East, compared to times in the past, Kurdistan's role has increased. For example, we have more investments economically in Kurdistan than we have had at times in the past, investments that the U.S. government has supported. Two, on security fronts, we have a greater military presence in Kurdistan as we have moved some of our military assets from the rest of Iraq to Kurdistan. So Kurdistan has become more important in that regard. And third, politically, the Kurds, we regard them as a partner in dealing with terrorism threats, whether it's in Syria or whether it's from groups that are tied to Iran in Iraq that present a challenge, and we regard them, some of these militias, as terrorist groups. Well, as I said before, the consulate does not arise in 1 minute or 1 day or 1 year. The plan for having such a large consulate started several years ago. And that, as I said before, was a prudent, a wise decision in retrospect, because the importance of Kurdistan to the United States and the importance of the United States to Kurdistan has only increased, as I said before. And it is the importance is, as I said, three dimensions. It's the political, diplomatic, not only Kurdistan, but Kurdistan as part of Iraq and Kurdistan as part of the region. And two, it's economic in terms of investments that the U.S. would like to be to benefit, obviously, from those investments itself, or its companies to benefit from those investments. And third is obviously security, terrorism in the region adjacent to Kurdistan and to Kurdistan and beyond, from groups, particularly, as I mentioned before, ISIS is one. In Syria, Kurdistan has played an important role in our joint effort with other countries as well against ISIS. And also in relations to Well, each interest, each relations have both something that is shared with others and have their own unique characteristics. And I think in Kurdistan, we have interests that are uh, served, beneficial to us because of Kurdistan itself and Kurdistan plus Iraq and Kurdistan and the region. So we have a multidimensional interest and the role of that Kurdistan plays and our relationship play are important in all these dimensions. Well, the United States, appreciates that Iraq is a federal state, and there are powers that belong to the central government and powers that belong to the region. And uh, appreciating that, and given the unique importance of Kurdistan for reasons that I mentioned, Baghdad knows that we were planning a large consulate general in Erbil. If they have been paying attention, which I assume at least some have been, they shouldn't be surprised by this. And this building of this consulate has been in the works for several years. So, and Baghdad understands that while we have relations with Baghdad, we also have relations with Kurdistan. And we also, more broadly, we have embassies in the capital of countries in several countries around the world. And we also have consul generals in the major areas and locations of those countries as well. Well, of course, it depends when we close consulates whether the interests that must be addressed in those places can be addressed otherwise. But in the case of Kurdistan, as I said again, this was planned many years ago. A building doesn't happen overnight. The decision to build a large consulate, and we also build a large embassy in Baghdad, is because of the special circumstances and relations and the needs, diplomatic and otherwise, that we have assessed that we have in Kurdistan. And as I said before, I think it was a wise decision early on, several years ago, to do so. And history, the time that has passed since, has proven that that was a wise decision, because the importance of Kurdistan has only grown since that time. Of course, we, the United States, has wanted in Iraq, based on its constitution, which is a federal Iraq, where the powers and the responsibilities of Baghdad and Erbil have been specified in the constitution. As you know, I was personally involved in helping in drafting that constitution. As far as going forward is concerned, at this point, I think the support for the constitutional arrangements of Iraq and Kurdistan will not change. We have noticed, we have observed that sometimes the constitution is not observed as it is in terms of division of responsibilities between the center and the region. That will continue, in my view, the support for the Iraq and Kurdistan within its constitution. Second, at the present time, we have economic interests in both Iraq and the region. And just let me finish. And we would like to obviously protect those economic interests and have the rewards for the investments that are being made, and that those investments are protected. And security-wise, the region has changed. There is the ISIS threat, some threat from ISIS remain, but now, given the changes in the region, with the weakening of Iran because of losses that it has suffered in Lebanon, in Syria, and that it is focused more on Iraq. And Iraq has become even more important to it, and it supports militia groups who are growing in importance in Iraq and are a threat to both Iraqis. Economically, they're a threat because they're involved in all businesses. They are politically a threat. I am surprised that not many in the international media focused that the militia parties more than doubled their presence in the last election that took place a few weeks ago in Iraq. There are more than 50 seats now that they will control in the coming parliament, and they are a threat to the independence of Iraq because they report, or they are dominated by Iran. Yes, sir. Of course, there is both continuity and change. On the fundamentals, such as Iraq, within its constitution, there will be continuity and support for it, and we will press. I'm not in the government. I assess that we will adjust as necessary in support of that objective that I described. With regard to the security circumstance in Iraq, the role of militias tied to Iran, several of whom the United States regards as terrorist groups, the U.S. has designated them as terrorist groups. The focus will be how to encourage Iraqi independence that will affect Kurdistan too, and bring these militias under control by disarming them, demobilizing them, and reintegrating them, and as some of their individuals could join the Iraqi armed forces as individuals. This would become a focus because also the weakening of Iran, because of the losses that it has suffered that I mentioned, this may be an opportunity for Iraq to assert its independence, and it's in our interest, the U.S. interest, to help Iraq become more independent of Iran and independent of the militias that Iran controls and sustains. So this, in my view, I would recommend this become a major focus of the U.S. policy in the coming phase. Well, one, I would like to say that when you say the opening of a consul general, no, we have had a consul general in Kurdistan for years. What we have today is the opening of a new building for the Kurdistan region. Given the size of the building, it's a major investment that the United States has made. And that investment itself is an indicator that in the U.S. Global evaluation of its diplomatic posture, Kurdistan ranks significant, and therefore that's what it should be said. But the fact of Kurdistan's importance has been there for some time, and it has only increased in my view. Now, of course, the U.S. protects its interests. Every country has a responsibility to protect its interests. But in the case of the United States and Kurdistan region, it is, in my judgment, that many of the U.S. interests and Kurdistan interests overlap. So it's not that we have an interest that is at odds with the interest of Kurdistan, or Kurdistan. There aren't important Kurdistan interests that the U.S. does not share. So that the question has the implication as if there is a conflict of interest and the U.S. only protects its interest. No, I see that on quite a number of important issues, there is a commonality, similarity of interests. Well, now that attack, the U.S. has condemned it very strongly, and one of the reasons to emphasize dealing with the militias, Iranian-controlled militias in Iraq. And I did emphasize earlier that these militias are like a cancer on the body politic of Iraq. And it has only grown in relative importance. It needs to be addressed now because this may be a moment of opportunity with the Iranian situation, as I described. Now, of course, Kurdistan needs its important assets to be protected from drone attack or other serious threats. Drones seem to be the major focus right now. And it is for Kurdistan and the U.S. Government to see what can be done. Should Kurdistan acquire its own counter-drone capability to protect its assets, or should it be helped by the United States? Those are questions that the government of Kurdistan and the government of the United States would have to address. Well, I think that first the Iraqis, Kurds, and Arabs must recognize that this problem has only grown. In the parliament before the election, these militia groups had only around 20 plus, maybe 22, 23 seats. Now they have more than doubled. They used to control financial assets. I'm sure that that control has grown. They control more financial assets. So they're controlling in part parliament. They will have a big role. They have a big role in the economy. Wait a minute. Wait. Let me finish, please. Okay. And they can have a big role in the security. So there is economy, there is politics, there is security, in which these guys who are loyal to another country, Iran, which wants to dominate Iraq. So the U.S. should pay attention to this, but there is great responsibility on the part of the Iraqi government, the Iraqi political players, including Kurdistan government, when they negotiate about the new government, as the negotiation must start. This issue must be one of the central issues to be addressed. And the U.S., I believe this administration is very much focused on this problem, the problem of militias, and supports Iraqi independence from that support.